Hey Dave, how's it going today?
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing awesome. Hey, so when we were sitting down together, we were finishing up talking about, hey, is it a good time to buy right now, or should you wait? And I thought it would be great for you from the financial perspective with mortgages to help us kind of compare. What's the difference between buying now or buying a year from now? Would you do that for us today?
Absolutely. You know what? It was really exciting to finally put some like real concrete numbers to this. In fact, I was actually astonished at the findings. This is a big question today, Catherine. A lot of people are naturally thinking that like, hey, maybe it's time to hit the brakes and we'll wait till maybe this is a little bit more affordable for me in the future, right? We recently have started to hear the narrative that interest rates are starting to come down kind of little by little, but that in the future we should see a break in interest rates. So I think your average consumer says, well, hey, if interest rates are going to go down, maybe I'll just put this on the shelf for a minute and re-engage once interest rates do go down. And that's a very logical mindset to have, for sure. I can understand why most people can think that. But it's really important that you look at the data. And I think this is going to blow your mind, Catherine. I'm super excited to show this to you.
Oh, thank you so much. All right, so show
Yeah.
us the
Yeah.
magic.
For sure. Okay, so let me give a little bit of pretext to what I'm about to go over. So it's important to understand sort of what the market is anticipating happening both in values of homes as well as interest rates, right? Those are the two kind of indicators that we're going to be looking at here. So I pulled some, this is like fresh off the press data right now. California Association of Realtors is projecting a 4.6% year over year appreciation growth, right? So that means, this time next year, homes theoretically would be worth 4.6% more than they're worth today and selling for 4.6% more than what they're selling for today. Okay. As far as interest rates are concerned, there's a little bit more of a spectrum on that, depending on who you're asking. But here's what we do know. Universally, the consensus is that interest rates are going to go down. I mean, that's kind of a no-brainer, right? We know that. Exactly how much and exactly when is kind of like the big crystal ball out there. But the spectrum of expectation 1 year from today is anywhere between 5.75% to 6.25%. Okay, so
Okay.
again, depending on who you ask, National Association of Realtors, California Association of Realtors, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, Mortgage Bankers Association. There's a lot of people weighing in on that lottery ticket right now.
Yeah,
But
you gotta kind of piece it all together and
yeah,
average it out, so to speak.
for sure, for sure. So for this analysis, though, like I tend to be pretty conservative, right? So I wanted to say, like, okay, let's say we fall a little short of that mark of 4.6% from an appreciation standpoint, right? So I did this at like 4.3%, just to be a little bit more conservative. And since the bet that we're kind of hedging against is that I'm going to wait until interest rates go down, I actually took the most aggressive analysis of what would happen to interest rates, meaning what would happen if interest rates did indeed go down to 5.75%. Okay, so
Okay,
conservative,
great.
conservative on the value part, but very aggressive on the interest rate forecast. Okay, so
So best case scenario for home buyers, basically.
yeah, yeah, and also something that would, sort of logically be like, okay, well, because as people are making that decision of like, do I buy now or do I wait a year from now? I wanted them to look at like, yeah, this is the best case of waiting versus now. So that's exactly right. So I'm going to share my screen because I put a graphic together that I think kind of really puts this all together, and I've been super excited to show this to you. So give me just a sec here.
Awesome. Can't wait to check it out.
Here we go. All right. So again, this is an analysis of buying now versus waiting a year. Now, there's a lot of data here that we're going to go over here, and I know it can get a little dizzying sometimes. But the case study that we're looking at in this chart here is based on a purchase of a $625,000 home today. Okay, like, so should I
Okay.
buy the $625,000 home today, or should I wait 1 year to buy it? Well, okay, so the appreciation gain, right? So that the house price by waiting would theoretically go up by $27,393, Katherine. So if you waited a year, you're going to pay an extra $27,000 in order to buy the same house that you could buy for $625,000 today. Does that make sense?
Gotcha. I'm with you.
Okay, cool. So now this is kind of fast forwarding to the end here, but it's showing you a net benefit of buying now of $21,000 in your pocket. Now, but like that's a big thing to say without backing it up. So that's,
yeah, I was going to say, tell us how you got there.
Yeah, for sure. That's exactly what I'm going to do now here. So we're going to come back to some of this up here today. But so this is what we want to look at, right? So the property value goes up to $652,393 based on the 4.38% appreciation. Now, interestingly enough, the payment difference by waiting, it does actually go down. And so when people logically think that, like, hey, maybe it makes sense to wait, they're not necessarily wrong. From a mortgage standpoint, a monthly payment standpoint, which most people, Katherine, are like entirely focused on, right? It's what's the mortgage payment? What's the mortgage payment? Without looking at like all of these other ancillary things that are kind of happening at the same time. So yes, indeed, the payment would be $197 lower by buying in that year from now when the interest rate market goes down to 5.75%. Okay, so a
lot of people are going to see that and stop watching and be like, oh, well, there's the answer to this question. But you and I both know it is not, that's not where you stop. There's so much more to it.
That's exactly it. And that's why I wanted to do this first, because you're right. This is where most people kind of say, okay, cool, this makes sense. And that's where the thought process ends. This is where we get that kind of non-industry advice, right? From people that definitely love us, coworkers, parents, brothers, sisters. Hey, wait, buy when interest rates go down. Well, check this out, Katherine. So the difference of that $197 equates over the course of the next 12 months to just below $2,400, right? $2,364. But check this out. Well, this is just a graphic representation of that, okay? Check this out. So what you see here is today's environment on the left column. In the middle column is like the halfway point, right? Assuming we took this 1 year destination and we just cut everything in half, okay? But it's kind of nice to see the perspective, right? Because some people don't want to wait, but some people have a lease that's not up for another 5 or 6 months. So I wanted to provide kind of that milestone as well so that they could see it kind of on an interim basis. But let's look down here. So to buy a $625,000 home today, then now I did this with a 5% down payment. Okay, so you would be putting down just over $32,000. So you'd be borrowing $593,750. And it's the same analysis across the board, 5% down versus 5% down versus 5% down. Obviously, the numbers change because if the price of the home goes up, so does the percentage of down payment. We're talking about the same identical loan, a conventional 30-year fixed loan. So we're showing a down payment of $31,250. The rate today on a 30-year fixed at 6.75% with an APR of 6.9. This is purchasing a home today with no points. I wanted to have it the same across the board so we can kind of nullify that element. Again, the loan program here is a conventional fixed loan. Now, here's another thing. By putting 5% down on a mortgage, you do have mortgage insurance that you do have to pay into your mortgage payment. Now, that is the same for any loan where somebody is putting less than 20% down. So it is not exclusive to this. I just wanted to fairly put that on here for illustration purposes. This is giving you the entire annual principal and interest that you're paying, which is $46,213. Now, what most people are focused on, though, is right here, Katherine. The total monthly payment of $4,890. Okay, that's the focal point, right? So to buy a $625,000 home today with 5% down at today's interest rate, including an estimate for taxes, insurance, and that mortgage insurance, you're looking at a total monthly payment of $4,890. So if we fast forward over here to that 1 year from now, we do see that payment being $197 lower, as we covered, the $4,693. So And of course, that's at an interest rate of 5.75%. But check this out, Catherine, right? With that increased appreciation, we already covered, you're paying a lot more for that home. So now you're paying $652,000 to buy that home. Your down payment increased another $1,500, right? Or so, in order to put that down. And that payment again is $4,693. But here is what you miss by waiting, right? That appreciation gain of $27,393, if you subtracted that, and just to be clear again, Catherine, that's just the gain based on the appreciation of the home, okay? So
sure.
If you took that number and you subtracted from it the entire 12 months of $197 savings, which is $2,364, and you subtracted a $4,000 estimate. This I just threw in, Catherine, just to prove a point here, right? Because because if you're a believer that this is going to happen, indeed, that interest rates are going to go down to 5.75% next year, then on the same token, by waiting to buy the house, you would have the benefit of the lower payment. But by buying now and refinancing at that same time, right, a year from now, not only do you have the appreciation gain in your pocket, the $21,000, but you now are going to drop your payment even lower than what the monthly payment would be by waiting and buying it here, right?
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was actually by another $165, right? So now this payment of $4,693 is just a little bit above $4,500. So by buying now, and I agree, interest rates are going to go down. It's sort of an economic certainty at this point. Like I said, it's really the how much and when that's the big question mark, but it's going to happen. And I'm a believer of that as well. The data doesn't lie. But by buying now and securing the price of the home as it stands today at $625,000, you're still able to leverage the fact that interest rates are going down in the future by refinancing. And the beauty of that is this $4,000 cost to refinance here that we've estimated, we've already taken that from the equity of the home. So in reality, it's like getting the refinance and paying yourself back for the difference in the mortgage payment for the first year. And net, when all is said and done, you are still $21,000 in the green, Catherine. So what I would ask you, and I would ask your average Southern California resident, is how easy is it for you to save $21,000 over the next 12 months? Not an easy thing to do when you're living in Southern California at our high cost of living. So real estate has and always will be, Catherine, the best shelter of money, the best opportunity to gain legacy and real wealth in life. And I think even in this example, where property values are slowing down in their appreciation, but interest rates expected to fall, this could represent a perfect opportunity for a buyer to get in today and take advantage of the interest rates coming down tomorrow.
I think that's awesome. And I support that idea of locking in the price now. And you kind of get the best of both worlds, right? You get the price point of where we're at now. And then in 6 to 12 months, so for 6 to 12 months, your payment's a little bit higher. But all in all, in the end, it makes sense. Plus, we're not even jumping into all the details, which I know we won't now, of the tax benefits during that time. And, all of the other factors of purchasing now versus waiting 6 to 12 months. Or when the rates do come down, then of course, if the rates are down, then more buyers are going to be competing with you. So, okay, that house that $625 now may be worth $652 later. That's not to say it's going to sell for $652. Because with simple supply and demand, if you have more competition, that $652 is going to sell for more because you're going to have more of that bidding war, so to speak. So the numbers are actually going to be even a little bit higher than that, I believe, if that is the case.
No,
so,
for sure. And
plus right now, sorry, I was going to say plus right now too, it is not uncommon for sellers to offer concessions to do a 1-1 buy down or a 2-1 buy down. And we can discuss that, what those things mean in a different conversation. But there are opportunities where you can, I mean, if you were to do a 2-1 buy down now, and then you don't use up all of that credit by the time you refinance, you don't lose that money. It goes towards your equity. So again, it's another win for a buyer right now.
No doubt. I think that's, I really firmly believe that we could be really in a perfect storm for buyers. I love having this conversation and doing this analysis with buyers, but like I've always done it kind of on a napkin, like chicken scratching it. I'm really excited to have this like method of delivery now. So, just to be able to sit down with somebody and take like a real world scenario for them, right? Because maybe 625 is like outrageously below or above kind of what their, kind of mental projection is of where they would enter the market. So maybe they're not really like kind of wrapping their arms around this. But now that we have this built out, we can just go in there and change the data, change the prices, change the rates, do all sorts of different kind of estimates along the way, right? And we have just a really good mechanism of being able to communicate it. It's just leveling up on our number one core value, which is to educate and empower the borrowers that we support.
I love that. And I thank you for spending this time talking with me today and explaining that. I think if, this is something where, somebody kind of has they're on the fence a little bit, I think it'll encourage them, and definitely worth reaching out to you or to I to dig in more and ask those questions of what's a 2-1 buy down? What's a 1-1 buy down? How does this work from my situation exactly with their situation? So definitely worth reaching out, I think.
Cool. Well, I was happy to do it, and happy to do it a bunch more times.
Awesome, Dave. Thank you. I hope you have an amazing day.
You as well. Bye-bye, guys.